Hi, I'm Dr. RaeAnn Ramsey, and I will be talking today for discussion one about the relevance of Western civilization. From the markets of Harappa to the trade networks of the Nile Valley, from the great highways of Rome to the global reach of the Silk Road, societies have always exchanged ideas and goods, technology and services, and even disease and language. And in the same way that we can trace things like the founding of Buddhism in India to its great success in China, the study of Western civilization allows us to understand the story of how our own society came to be. The great historian Christopher Dawson once wrote that literature and philosophy and theology were the fundamentals of Western civilization and its tradition. And he bifurcated that away from politics and political boundaries. And he acknowledged them as only secondary to Western civilization. Stephen Osment says that history is actually every civilization's clinical record of human nature and behavior. And he completely ignores, for example, Birkin's debate about the central and Faustian description of Western civilization. For our purposes today, we will accept that the study of Western civilization is a study of our own humanity. And it is everything from our virtue and knowledge to our customs and culture and the way we think of those things, the archetypes of who we are and how we find the derivative roots of those things in Western civilization. So, for example, consider what the author and activist Eben Warwick said. The great ideas of the West, rationalism, self-criticism, the disinterested search for truth, the separation of church and state, the rule of law, equality before the law, freedom of conscience and expression, human rights, liberal democracy, together constitute quite an achievement. This set of principles remains the best and perhaps only means for all people to live in freedom and reach their full potential. These concepts grew out of the tradition that we call Western civilization. From Plato's virtuous person to Locke's rational human being, the assumption that human beings are capable of good and thus capable of self-governing, of peaceful autonomy, if you will, laid the groundwork for the 19th century concept of liberty. From Mary Wollstonecraft, Vindication of the Rights of Women, to Susan B. Anthony's Declaration of Sentiments, the construct of full citizenship with suffrage and all of its rights was forged and ratified by the 20th century. And when we look back on our history from the shores of France, across the bridge in Selma, and even into Tiananmen Square, citizens across the world at various times have championed and demanded their freedoms of expression, of conscience, of faith, the very values and ideals of Western civilization. To study Western civilization is to study the very best of who we are and what we can be. It is to understand where we came from and how we arrived here. It is to understand all of the aggregate parts such that we comprehend the cumulative development of a civilization that strives for a better humanity for everyone. Liberty, equality, dignity, and opportunity for all, not just one group, not just one time, but for everyone all of the time. Think about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These are concepts codified by the Constitution, but they don't just appear there overnight. You see, life, your life is yours. No dictator or king can arbitrarily just take it from you. Liberty, you may choose your faith, you may choose to dissent, you may select your vocation. The pursuit of happiness, thank you, John Locke. You may seek financial gain and security, a way to support you or your family, free from restrictions in the confines of the law. These sorts of ideals, these things represent a long and arduous history. They're the products of the evolution of Western civilization and a world run amok with politicking and exploitation, where we still see the injustices of slavery and tyranny. We need to understand these ideals more than ever. We need to embrace them and we need to protect them. We need to study Western civilization.